Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Please give us a few minutes for other attendees to join the webinar. We'll be with you shortly. Hello, and welcome to our Lamvin webinar, where we offer the art of sound solutions. I'm Mark Rich, VP of Sales, and with me, as always, is Rick Farthing, Design Engineer Manager. Today, we'll be discussing good acoustics in the hospitality industry. How you doing, Rick?
Doing good, Mark. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. Doing great. Thank you. All right, let's jump in on this one. This is a good topic to discuss right now. So as always, in our webinars, we go over some basic items, which is baffles, beams, different panels, different types of applications. Rick typically goes over install methods, how you can look at it, design it, what makes the best design aspects for it, certifications, REACH, RoHS, Red List Free, green LEED certifications, and of course, Living Building Challenge. All good things to kind of go by. Lamvin does stand behind these products, and as well as we strive to make our environments and better, better environments overall. So let's get started on this. So talking about your main lobbies or entrance ways, we get this from a lot of designers to where they come across and they say, hey, we like the hardwood floors, or we like the tile floors. There's always some sort of hard metal objects and or different types of granites or stones that are in there. So there's constant reverberation. And one way to attack it is the dual core baffle, because you can add a nice design. It could be in the ceiling. You can make it a statement piece, or you could subdue it and kind of hide it out. So Rick, in regards to a dual core baffle and making it a little bit special than everything else, how do you go about doing that, and what's some of the design aspects that they can look at?
Well, the dual core baffle is optimally used for really custom shapes or anything that is very unique or hard to form over a single core. It's limited in its geometry, shapes, sharp angles. And the dual core is essentially two panels attached together. And as baffles, again, like you had stated, a lot of the lobbies or greeting rooms, they're open on two sides, usually have a concrete wall or a wall on one side, and a lot of windows. And there's not a lot of room for any kind of wall panels, acoustics. In the ceiling is the best place. And baffles are ideal for that cross traffic reverb bouncing off of two hard surfaces, and especially in like churches, gymnasiums, but ideal for a lobby in a greeting room.
It's a great idea for a lobby, just because it's as we kind of touched on many times before, you do want a certain look or aesthetic, and to your point that I think you nailed perfectly, which is a lot of glass. There's a lot of other things on the walls. You don't have room for acoustics on the walls, and if you don't want to put carpet and or rug in there, you're not getting any additional benefits. So
yeah, they would use a lot of granite tiles, stone floors, and with no carpeting, believe it or not, carpet absorbs a lot of the acoustics in a room.
It does, as well as the furniture. So getting on to other aspects of the lobby and or entry areas, to where sometimes we've seen it in a lot of applications recently, to where there are very high ceilings. And we've discussed this before, to where sometimes you just want to bring that ceiling, you want to bring it down a little bit, just to make it a little bit more of a cozy feel. So what we do is we take our wood beams, and this is a perforated vinyl made to look like real wood beams because that's increasing in popularity. But sometimes you can't have the weight. Sometimes you need the acoustics, as we just touched on before. So when you're designing something like this, Rick, what do you look at and what do you kind of do so that way they can kind of get an idea for future projects?
Well, yeah, it's the access points in the ceiling. As you can see in the background, there was a lot of duct work, a lot of the lights, sprinkler systems, a lot of things that take into consideration in knowing certain fire codes, whether it's East Coast, West Coast, Central. Every state has kind of its own um, build uh, building codes as well as safety codes. So in accommodating this is working with the architect, designer, or even the owner of what do you want the finished product to look like? What are you trying to, what is the look you're going for? And then helping to have a mounting system secure it, whether it's suspended with threaded rod like this. This is a unistrut back frame suspended by a threaded rod. And then going that route, it's yeah, we work with the customers but
Yeah, what
ultimately it's
they're looking
what are
for.
you wanting to see? What
Yeah.
is your end result? And
So if someone were to put these beams up, what, from a manufacturing standpoint, what's our limitation without having seams?
limitations typically is the fabric. The fabric is one thing that cannot change. Fiberglass can be layered to get one unique long beam, like a ridge beam in a central A-frame cabin lobby or something like that, and then secondary beams coming off of it. But transportation of an oversized
Good point.
panel,
Yeah.
as well as the fabric limitations, because they're typically vinyls only 54 inches wide, and it does need to wrap all the way around and attach on the back and get anchored. So um, those are really the two limiting factors. We have been able to even achieve different angles. So if the beams are a V shaped or going up into the ridge and have a seam line in the center, and
Mm-hmm.
we would just make that as one solid beam seamed in the center to look like the joinery of wood. So yeah,
Got it.
I always tell everybody the limitation is your imagination. You
Yeah.
think it up, we can make it acoustical. So, but to your point, yeah, with seams, they usually come standard 8 foot, 10 foot, 12 foot,
Mm-hmm.
and even 7, 7 and 4, 6. You know, any kind of even number or a whole foot measurements, because even the biggest cores can be broken in half, and whatever fits
That's it.
the I see them a lot in, you know, baristas and a lot of
Mhm.
coffee shops. They'll have the hanging baffles with a nice space equally, but rather than one long one, they broke it into three equal sized
Give it that
panels.
extra
Yeah,
look. Hmm.
yeah.
Absolutely. So going into the lobby areas, again, adding accent walls is huge in areas. This is a great example of geometric shapes on the wall here to the left, to where it could be, we can do that type of fabric and or material in a timber line to where you're seeing the perforated vinyl to make it look like wood, or you could do digital prints. You could do a standard fabric. What we look for in an aspect like this is the design, the cut. So you'll take your rendering or your idea, send that over to Rick. We'll take a look at it and say, hey, you know what? We can do these types of shapes. Or sometimes, hey, we like your idea, but we can make some improvements this way or get a better overall look because of additional seam lines that are needed, as Rick was kind of pointing out before. Something here. So Rick, how did you come across and get that panel to wrap not only on the wall, but then keep those shapes and go into the ceiling?
Well, that's one of the things I was going to touch on was we've we specialize in lining up the grain of the panel. So we'll make sure that if it's an overall image and you want to explode all 16 panels, if they're all 48 by 48, canvassing a 16-foot by 16-foot area, and then you can explode them all to be with a gap, a 2-foot gap in between. We can still maintain that look of aligning all the fabric and all the grain patterns. For this one, this was a unique one because they wanted a shadow line behind the panel. So there's actually an offset backer board that makes the panel an additional 1/4 inch, or I think it was 3/8 off the wall to give it that shadow behind it.
Yep.
But and this is the trick for us was getting the grain and the cutouts for the lights on the ceiling panels that wrap and come down the walls.
Yeah.
So that it was definitely a fun job, and lining up the fabric is, you know, one of our
specialties.
strong
Panel
suits.
matching.
Panel matching.
So again, if you're looking at something other than standard, Lamvin does it. We do it very well. Basic ideas, you can sketch them up. We can take your idea, put it into CAD, convert it over via our shop drawings, and then give you an idea with a panel layout location for installation purposes, so you know what panel is going where. We manufacture it, we lay it out at the plant before we actually go and ship it and deliver it, take pictures, just to make sure that everything is as it should be. But this is a great example of adding a great element into a lobby and or sitting area to where you need those acoustics, but you really want that art.
Yes.
Great example. So to go off of that example, what we did is we put together a couple different wood-looking items that are basically same in tone, but you could see here how they have a different grain texture and or feel with the feather grain, the heritage, and the timberline. The heritage has that raw, natural wood look. The feather grain is much more of a smooth finish, and the timberline is going to have that slight, you know, abrasion to it a little bit. It adds that visual texture. So to Rick's point, if you're looking for a particular product to add shadowing, to add additional texture because of where you have your lighting set up and you want that element, you can build that into the product.
Yeah, I was going to mention the feather grain wood is I've noticed that on beams or baffles and panels that are up high, paying for the extra texture and stuff when it's so far away, typically it does not add a lot of depth or wood character. So they just go with the feather grain, which is they want the wood look, and it's so high up that the texture is getting lost. But when it's down closer, like right behind the reception desk, something that the customer can see right away, like the heritage, it just makes it pop. It's a conversation starter.
Absolutely, totally agree. Reverberation, you know what, Rick, I'm going to let you take over this room because you actually helped with the design aspect of this room that was done in Hawaii. So go ahead and take this one away.
Yeah, this was a ballroom at one of the major resorts out there, and they were really looking for a unique wall panel where they wanted it. I don't know what the terminology would be, but it's kind of like a sawtooth where one panel is off the wall, so it tapers from 4 inches down to 1, where the panel next to it is just a straight flat 1-inch panel. So it had that undulating or staggered look going all the way down, and they wanted non-patterned divider lines in between. They said just make everything random and not uniform.
So it was contoured not only from side to side, going from top to bottom, being a thicker to a thinner, but left to right, it could have an additional thickness, but randomized in order to incorporate all of these odd shadows or based off the lighting that they had.
again, yeah, and to kind of illustrate on that, they went with a beveled edge during the joints. So on the
Wow.
faces, why those shadow lines came out so much was they had just a beveled edge on the joints, but on the sides was all square hardened edges. And they liked it so much they went into their council chambers or their meeting halls, and they added more panels in just those other rooms. But
Wow.
this was this is an example of what the designer had dreamed of, and we made it a reality, and they just love it.
Wow. That's really good, especially the fact that we did two different types of edges on a standard panel, which has multiple shapes and orientations.
And
That's it's
tapered from top to bottom to different thicknesses, and
pretty
yeah,
impressive.
it was a fun job.
That's right. So doing our sonic design form, this is our wedge. We like to show this one in the ceilings and or the walls. This particular format is showing you in a ceiling aspect, just to add a little bit of detail. Because again, sometimes you want the hard floors. You want to leave the walls alone because maybe you have a certain pattern or you have a graphic or there's a certain wallpaper that has to be chosen, but you are in a loud environment where there's sound bouncing all over the place. You got to grab it, you got to soak it up. So again, using the ceiling and incorporate it. But as you kind of see here where the lights are and or the mounting methods, you build it and you design it so you take your wedge shape and you might need to cut down a little bit of it, which we'll do at the factory, and or you leave out a complete panel and you put that into the design anyways. So that way you've got your areas in order for add your lightings, your sprinklers, your hanging devices. Anything you want to add to this one, Rick?
No, well, a couple of things. The Like in this aspect, when we were designing this one up and doing all these renderings, it was a new construction, and they wanted a continuous flow on the ceiling, and they wanted a lot of movement, and they didn't like you can see at the end of the bar had a lot of glass, and they wanted to save the wall on the right for artwork, and they didn't want us to put any panels. So, and again, it was hardwood floors, and there wasn't a lot of areas for acoustics, and they really liked the wedge look. So, getting that uniformity, repeatability, and a lot of the absorption, and
Mhm.
yeah, they
It'll certainly do the job. I mean, you
Yeah,
can see.
I don't think they went with the company didn't end up going with this look, or they scrapped the whole idea. So I wish I would have built it, but yeah, this was a fun design.
PET subway panels. So in the rooms, of course, noise between walls is a common factor. So sometimes you don't have it in your budget to put up our sonic sound block, which is actually an absorber and a blocker at the same time. But you need to add some sort of element into the room. You want to incorporate acoustics, but you also want to incorporate what would look like maybe like a wool wall or a felt wall. So here, what you can do is take our subway tiles with a chamfered edge, put them up on the back wall. You can increase your NRC a little bit by offsetting it from the wall, putting up furring strips, of course. Or you could, simply adhere it right to the wall. Get yourself a little sound absorption. You get some great texture in the room. It adds as a great element. I mean, really, it's a very easy process to do. Should you need to go something a little bit quicker, let's just say, and or you're just looking for that PET look, which you can only get really with PET. So something to point out here is it's not very heavy. It does come in a thickness of 9 millimeter, and they do have two different sizes. One is 23.5 by 23.5, or 47 by 23.5.
I'd like to also point out the ease of installation of this
Yes.
panel. It's yeah, any wall panel is easy to install. It doesn't have a lot of hurdles to come over, but with the fiberglass, you do have a different element where the PET is pretty straightforward. It's more rigid, and it just fits together so much faster and easier. Yeah.
So going into a little bit more PET products, but adding actual wood. So this is our Hush wood. It's gained a lot of momentum lately. This is a veneer PET. So what you're looking at here is a 9mm PET with a piece of MDF and then a piece of real wood veneer that's actually been stained on top of it. So you're getting real wood, you're getting PET, you're getting acoustics. Again, you can increase your NRC in the room by putting up furring strips behind it to add a little bit of an air gap to increase the absorption. So this is a great way to have a finished product. You get that real wood feel. You know, if you're sitting there and you touch it, it's real wood. You know, it's a veneer, but it's there. It comes in 4 standard colors, as you're seeing here. Standard sheet size is 24 by 96, roughly 35 pounds per panel. Again, your installers would go take this if they need to cut it down. Simply, we have some instructions on how to cut it down, adhere it right to the wall. And as Rick pointed out, it's quick and easy. So absorbent block, we bring this in because this is a lot of people, you know, you're thinking of the inside of the space constantly for noise absorption. But if you're looking at your environments, especially whether it be you have a great outdoor environment for the hotel, there's swimming pools, there's racquetball courts, there's any types of playgrounds, things like that. Well, you have deliveries, you have delivery doors, you have all of these things, and all of those delivery trucks show up and go beep, beep, beep to back up. Well, depending upon the walls and how the building is built, that sound can go and just bounce right off that walls and start going into the other environments to where you may not want that noise. So I'm going to have Rick talk you through the construction and what this sound sucker panel does.
Well, thanks, Mark. Yeah, the sound sucker is a steel face. It's usually galvanized steel that can be powder coated to match different colors that you want for a theme. But it is an acoustical fiberglass core wrapped in a 20 gauge steel perforated and then capped on the top and bottom with the mounting is J mold and Z molds, which mounts to the wall and also attaches to the face. And this stuff is really durable. I've seen it used in a lot of auto body shops where there's tires and tools, generator rooms that have, like you said, in swimming pools. You know, they got pumps, and you want these outdoors. You know, surround the pump with acoustic panels to reduce the noise down. And yeah, like you said, loading docks, we got forklifts running around. You know, guys aren't known for unloading quietly. You know, they will just drop that over there.
That's right.
So, but and these are really, this is one of the aspect panels that we insist on shop drawings to assist, because you cannot cut these down in the field. On rare occasions, we've done some custom shapes where you know, with a cutout to fit around a column or a ceiling beam, and they wanted the panel to go right up to the ceiling, but are notched around a beam, which isn't impossible. It can be done. We've done it a couple of times, but like in this instance, in between each of the steel columns or the supports, roof supports, you know, we will make these panels to fit in between and give it about a 1/16 of an inch of play. And the seams that you can see in between the panels, you know, when you're bending the metal, it does have a slight radius, and when you put two of them up against each other, it's going to show a shadow line, but it's only about a 1/16 of an inch, maybe 3/32 radius. And and then there's just straightforward, just put the J mold on the wall, slide the panels in on top, and then just secure it on the top. And
bam, ready to go.
Yeah, installs pretty straightforward. And
nice solution to an outdoor environment. Get some sound absorption as well as add a little bit of flair with you know, some nice design. I gotta admit, it's outdoor, it's industrial, but at least it's got a little bit of a design to it. So it's not,
Exactly.
so boring. Lamvin's not really boring. So again, this is our absorbent block, as Rick had pointed out. So custom shapes, we can do 42 inches all the way up to 120 inches. Again, it's coming out of a galvanized aluminum / stainless steel. We do have some colors. It is powder coated. So again, it's going to hold up to those harsh environments. So that's the end of our presentation today. I'm Mark Rich, VP of Sales. With me as always, Rick Farthing, our engineering manager. We hope you guys had some great information here for the hospitality environments. We look forward to talking to you again on our future webinars. Thank you so much. Have a good one, Rick. All right, bye-bye.